Hey guys, so gonna do a little bit of a topics on my mind here, not a long one and all that, just a quick mini topics on my mind for you guys. Haven't done one in a while, and of course, as I've alluded to, since it is summer, have to, do this with the opportunities that we have, and yeah, I just wanted to come on here and do this. And to give my thoughts on some topics, very topical topics that have occurred over the past week. So without further ado, let's get into that. So the first topic, as you can tell, is on Stephen Colbert. He's had a late show with CBS for quite some time. He is one of the successors, believe it or not, to David Letterman. Somebody else took over for Letterman before, and then that person got replaced by Steve Colbert. And it seems that his late show, and the late night time slot for late shows on CBS, now owned by Skydance, since they own Paramount and Paramount Viacom, if you will, is not long for the world, because it was announced, and he even talked about it on his show, that they are canceling the show at the end of next May. Now, could things change? Absolutely. They might decide not to cancel it and all that. But as of right now, pretty much Colbert is out the door. And the reason for this is because of the fact that he was very vocal in Paramount settling with President Trump and paying President Trump back a certain amount of money because of, reasons, basically, I guess, deframing and all that, kind of like unjust, opinions, or whatever the case may be, or was. They agreed on a settlement. And Colbert, who is one of the more, I guess you could say, anti-Trump, anti-Trump people out there, from a media standpoint, wasn't too fond of that, and he called CBS, Paramount, Skydance, Viacom, if you will, out on it. And as a result, Skydance is like, yeah, we're not going to want you around after next year. We're going to give you 1 year to finish up what you're doing, and then you're out the door. Now, Skydance has come out and said that it's due to financial reasons, but a lot of people look at the timing, how it coincides with Colbert's comments, and everything, his, rant towards them, his venting, his expression, or expressism, if you will, expressism on the whole situation. And a lot of people feel like, the timing just is too ironic for it to be due to financial reasons, and they believe it's actually due to Paramount, Skydance saying, Viacom saying, yeah, we're not going to want you on our team anymore after next year. So, yeah, this is look, I don't like the idea that anybody, whether you're a fan of theirs or not, I don't like the idea that anybody that's worked hard to get to the position they're in, I'm not a fan of them losing their job, losing their livelihood and everything, and have to go out and look for another way to provide for themselves and for their families. Even though he makes a lot of money, or by the end of next year would have made a lot of money with this gig, still you need a little something on the side to kind of, I guess you could say, counter the fact that a lot of that money you make goes towards mortgage, bills, you name it. And yeah, I'm not a fan of anybody losing their job, especially if they make that kind of money, because most of that does go to what I just mentioned, including taxes. So I'm not a fan of that, but, this is a lesson to be learned, that when you work for a major conglomerate, especially if you know that major conglomerate is going to be owned by somebody else, and that new party that owns them, is basically the kind that's like, yeah, you can have your opinions, but keep them to yourself. Don't make them publicly known, or don't make them vocally known publicly. When you know that entity is going to be your new bosses, then yeah, you might want to be careful about what you say. You might want to be careful about what you say. And I think what happened with Colbert, I'm not making excuses for him, but I think what happened is he forgot that Paramount, CBS, Viacom is now owned by Skydance, and Skydance is, like I said, the kind of people that will look at that, not want any trouble, want to start a clean slate or start off on a clean slate, and they're the kind of people are like, yeah, we don't want you as a part of our group anymore if you're going to do that. Now, like I said, could things change, and could he keep, the Late Show? Yeah, he could. The only way I think it could work out is if, after he talks maybe with his family, he goes to Skydance and says, look, I was in the wrong, I was angry, I was expressing myself on air when I should have kept it to myself, I apologize, and if you give me one more year or a couple more years on here, I give you my word, I'll keep my personal opinions to myself. And if he could do something like that, and Skydance is like, okay, cool, we accept your apology, we'll give you a few more years, but please keep your word, we're going to be watching you, I think, honestly, he could keep it. I think he could keep his job, but we'll see what happens. A lot of people are thinking that after, this May, if, nothing changes and, that's it, that a lot of people think after this May 2026 that his next gig could be with MSNBC and whoever they're, going to be working under, or it could be on YouTube, as a podcaster and everything, because that's where a lot of people are going. Conan O'Brien's gone here, Ellen's gone here, a lot of people, even Joy Reid, recently released by MSNBC, they're all coming to YouTube or Rumble, if you will, to express themselves, to let their values be known, let their opinions be known. And what's interesting about this too is Donald Trump, the president, even tweeted out that he was happy Colbert was gone and he feels Kimmel will be next. And I don't know if Kimmel will be next. I think Kimmel's pretty much safe and all that. Yeah, Kimmel did, let it be known on social media that he wasn't happy that Colbert lost his job or will be losing his job within the next year. He wasn't too thrilled with that. But I think Kimmel's also the kind of guy that basically ABC will talk to and say, look, we don't want to lose you. We don't want to have to do to you what Skydance did. So can you do us a favor and just tone down the rhetoric, if you will, that you have towards the president, at least until he's out of office. And that's the only thing I can think is going to potentially keep Kimmel on the air, to where maybe he may publicly say, look, I have a lot of opinions about our president, but I've agreed, I made a deal, I'm not going to mention them on air, I'll mention them in my own way that won't get me in trouble and won't get Disney in trouble. And that's it. And if he makes that kind of statement on air and leaves it at that, good for him. But I think, honestly, I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think he's safe. And again, like I said, he's the kind that, even though he may not like who's running the country right now, he is the kind that will basically put that difference, that personal difference he had, that personal opinions he has aside, and just, save it for when the opportunity is more appropriate. But yeah, this is a lesson that, honestly, you need to remember who your bosses or your new bosses are. And especially if you got some new bosses coming in, you got to remember, hey, they might view things differently, so I got to, keep my mouth shut and keep my thoughts to myself. And, that's about it. That's about it. But anyway, though, guys, I just wanted to get my thoughts on that topic. Let me know what your thoughts on it. Let me know what your thoughts are on it, I should say, yourself. And let's get on to the next one. Well, stupid is as stupid does, right? You would think, being a CEO of one of the biggest brands in the world, Astronomer, or Astronomy, or whatever it's called, you'd think someone like that would be smart enough to realize that maybe having an affair behind your wife's back is not the best idea. And secondly, you think they'd be smart enough to realize having said affair behind your wife's back and then basically taking said mistress out on a date to a concert, like, what happened with, like what happened here, basically a concert by a very well-known band that sells out everywhere they go. you'd think the person would be smarter than that, realizing there's a good chance that that band could do an intermission, and during the intermission do a little bit of what's known as the kiss cam, and just circle around and get people to kiss, if you will, couples, hopefully, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. You would think, knowing that's a possibility, that you would not allow yourself to be put in plain sight of the camera, basically focusing on your section. Because that's exactly what happened with this CEO. The CEO of Astronomer, I think that's what the company's name is, Astronomer, whatever. You'd think he would have been smart enough to kind of get tickets that would be, less conspicuous. Basically make it, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Make it more unlikely to be caught, if you will. But no, they had to get the VIP section. And, well, getting the VIP section, they paid the price. Because basically the moment this camera went on them, all of a sudden, they're like, oops, we weren't supposed to be seen. And literally, the CEO ducks down, and the mistress, probably was, HR, head of HR, human resources at that company, covers her face, ducks out of her, in embarrassment, and then kind of walks off out of sight. Yeah, honestly, I don't think anybody's going to blame, not blame, but I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for them, because they brought this on themselves. And the crazy thing is, the CEO, he's married, he has kids, and the mistress, the HR lady, was married, and she has a kid. And honestly, I think, both families are probably not too thrilled about what they just saw, or what they just heard about. Now, you might say, well, how did they find out? It's a Coldplay concert. Not many people can film at concerts. If they do, it's very, very rare. That's true. And you're also thinking, well, the Coldplay concert probably wasn't streaming, so there shouldn't have been an issue. That's true. But when you have people that own phones, if you will, like I do and like you do, and they take it to a concert like Coldplay, and they decide to film, the audience that they're a part of, maybe film the Kiss Camps, part of it, maybe film a few sections of songs here and there, performances, when you have a camera like we do on our phones, then you're going to use it to see, especially during the Kiss Cam section, who is going to be featured. And unfortunately, the CEO of Astronomer Astronomy, whatever it's called, and this HR lady, his mistress, unfortunately fell victim to the situation of people filming. And it is out there. It is out there to the point that you have folks here on YouTube, like the Side Scrollers, Clownfish TV, and others covering it. You have the Young Turks covering it. You have ABC News, CBS News, NBC covering it. You have Fox News covering it. You have every media out there that's podcasting or news media or newsworthy news media, if you will, out there. You have them covering this, and it doesn't make the CEO or this HR lady look good. It doesn't. And as a result, the CEO's wife, probably soon to be ex-wife, basically deleted her Facebook account, as some say she did, while others say she didn't delete it, but she just removed his last name from it. And honestly, you can't blame her. Because again, like I said at the beginning, stupid is as stupid does. Because like I said at the beginning, you should know better. If you're a guy that has this much money, and although the VIP section sounds great to have, sit down, enjoy the concert, have a few drinks, whatever, you would think this guy would realize that would be the one of the major sections a potential kiss cam could come onto. And again, you think he would know better, like, well, I don't want people to know we're here. Maybe we should try to get seats lower and make ourselves inconspicuous. You think he would know better to? You think he would know to do that if he didn't want this to get out there, and accidentally, if you will. Well, he didn't know better, and he's the CEO of a major company, one of the bigger companies in the world. You know, obviously he didn't know better, and now he's paying the price. And a lot of people, like I said, talked about this. People here on YouTube, like I said, Side Scrollers, Clownfish TV, Young Turks, Double Toasted, and all that. Everybody has talked about this. Heck, and a lot of the male hosts on these shows, like Double Toasted and Clownfish, have even basically said that if they were put in this situation, they wouldn't be alive right now. Quite honestly, they'd be either in the doghouse for 10 years, or they would be in the hospital. Period. And again, this guy shouldn't. And people say this guy should have known better. Like, hey, whatever you want to do with your life, that's your personal life. That's fine. That's your business. But if you don't want what you're doing, that's wrong. Especially if you're married. You don't want people to know, especially your loved ones, especially your wife, to know what you're doing? Then maybe going to a Coldplay concert at Foxborough Stadium, or it's formerly Foxborough, Gillette Stadium, in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Going there, purchasing tickets in the VIP section, knowing that could potentially be one of the sections that gets put on the kiss cam. You think this guy would have realized, hey, maybe this is a good place to get, or maybe this is a good section to be at, during this concert, because there potentially could be a kiss cam coming. You think he would know better if he didn't want this to get out. But unfortunately he didn't. And now it's going to cost him, and justifiably so. Because you got to wonder. His wife's wondering, okay, why is he out late? He says he's going to do this, he's doing that. You got to wonder what his wife is thinking, knowing that, basically he probably told a couple of nights ago, yeah, I got to stay at the office late and everything, take care of some stuff and da-da-da. You got to wonder what her mindset is when she found out, oh, by the way, honey, look at this video. That's your husband, right? Did he say he was going to be, at the office all night? And she's probably thinking, yeah. Well, that don't look like he at the office. That look like he doing something more than just being at the office. So you got to imagine what was going through her mind when she found out, either through, her kids, phones or computers or PCs or laptops or tablets, or even her own. You got to imagine if I wouldn't be surprised if somebody messaged to her, someone messaged to her and basically showed her what was going on. Because again, she probably got told something else, and now she's seeing exactly why he told her that. Made up that lie. But you know what? Again, I don't blame the lady for doing what she's going to do. But honestly, I don't even blame those that are making fun of it right now. Yeah, there's a lot of places that are making fun of this. The Muppet, I don't know, somebody used some AI, if you will, and somebody, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, but somebody used some AI, and they put Fozzie in the position of that CEO, holding Miss Piggy, just like that CEO held that HR lady mistress of his. So people are using AI to use the Muppets to make fun of it. And then here's the other one. If you went to the Phillies game the other day, the Philly fanatic was making fun of it as well. The male Philly fanatic and the female Philly fanatic were making fun of it. And then you had a couple, an actual husband and wife couple in the crowd, because they were doing a kiss cam as well in this Phillies game. And the guy held up a sign saying, "This is my wife." It's like people, it's like some people tell me sometimes when I say stupid crap or do stupid crap, people tell me you bring it upon yourself. Well, this guy brought it upon himself with all these people making fun of all these places, people, fanatics, making fun of what they did. and he brought it on himself about what's about to happen, I should say, to him personally, and maybe even professionally, maybe both. They brought it both on themselves. Because again, the husband probably told the wife something else. The HR lady, the mistress of his, probably told her son something else. And oh, look, what they told you wasn't true, and now you got to deal with the consequences. Yeah, so I don't blame the wife for doing what she's doing or what she's going to do, and I don't blame the HR lady's family for maybe wanting to disown her. But you bring it upon yourself, and I don't blame anybody else for mocking this or making a joke about it. You bring it on yourself, and look, like I said, whatever you do with your personal life, that's fine. But if you have the unforgivable intentions to do what this CEO has done, if you still plan to have those unforgivable intentions to do it, you think, again, like I said at the beginning, he would know better. He would know, like, yeah, I want to take you to this concert, but let's go into a section that's, making us less conspicuous that we're together. You think he would know better to avoid being caught. But, karma's a bitch, if you will, and it's going to come back to bite him in a big way. What will be surprising about this is if the wife forgives him. If she forgives him, but she does it, because I was thinking about this. I'm thinking, okay, what if she does forgive him for what he's done? How would that work out? And my thought is, she would want to, behind the scenes, be the real CEO, while he, at his job, portrays being CEO. That's just my opinion. Like, if he still has the job, he's still in that position, but he's probably on probation or whatever, I could see the wife saying, yeah, I'll forgive you, but I'm going to make the final decisions for your job, not you. You're just going to say, here's my idea, let's go with it. And but you give me credit for it when you come home. Or she's going to say, whatever you make on your check weekly or bi-weekly comes to me. That could be what happens. We don't know. If he still has his job. But yeah. Stupid is as stupid does. So let me know what your thoughts are on this, and let's get on to the next topic. Well, it seems that the alligator Alcatraz in Florida may not be the only Alcatraz that's going to be available to hold the worst of the worst, especially during this situation that we're going through right now to remove certain people from the streets, whether other people like it or not. And what I mean by that is it's been reported over the past couple of months and been more, I guess you could say, brought to light over the past week, because you had the Attorney General go take a tour of it, along with the Secretary of Interior Design or something. I think that's the title they had. Take a tour of Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay this past week to see it, to kind of look it over as a potential holding place for the worst of the worst that's being rounded up even as we speak. And right now, it's been looked at this way since about the late 60s, early 70s, as a national park tourist attraction. Basically, people pay tickets, go on a boat, they ride out to Alcatraz, and they tour the facility. Well, certain parts of it. Certain parts of the facility are basically blocked off to the public and everything. And I think and some of those parts we did see in a report that Fox News did. But anyway, basically the Attorney General and, like I said, Secretary of Interior Design, they did a tour of this to look it over, to potentially maybe go, kind of move forward and trying to, in the near future, especially during President Trump's run in the White House, or his time in the White House. I think the hold on, I'm getting tongue-tied. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied. But they're looking it over, like I say, to potentially open it up during Trump's current lead of the country, if you will. It's late while I'm doing this. I do apologize. But current lead of the country, because he's actually brought that to light that he would like to see that reopened and utilized as what it was originally meant to be utilized for in the past. And there's basically there's a strong possibility that it will happen, because as I said, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Interior Design walked it, to kind of see whether or not it's going to be suitable for potential holding of the worst once, it gets repaired, once, renovations are made and all that, because it was noted that that the electricity and water that, that used to flow through that place, the water and everything, and the electricity that's still there, believe it or not, because of the tours, basically, it's not from the mainland. And that's one goal I think they want to look at is, hey, we need to have, established running water, established electricity in this building coming from the mainland, to basically, be one of the first steps to get this open again. Now, could they install, through modern technology and everything, could they install electricity in there, upgrade it and all that? Yeah, that's probably on the radar. That's probably on the radar to do and everything. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they have planned and everything. But, right now it definitely feels like, they want to, this is the impression I get. They definitely want to move forward with this, and make it happen before the 4 years of Trump is over and everything. Because, obviously from a personal point of view, they know that the other side, if they get back into power, within, let's say, the next year because of midterms, or even within the next few years because of, the overall election year in 2028, they know if they get back into power, from their personal point of view, that a lot of this is off the charts. A lot of this is, in the trash, potentially. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do and everything, with this proposition to reopen Alcatraz as a prison, for the worst of the worst. Now, what would it do to Alcatraz as a tourist attraction? Well, those days might be numbered. They might say, we're going to have to, they're probably going to be like, tours are no longer to be allowed here anymore because this is now a prison again. And people may not like that, but that's a possibility that's going to happen. That's a possibility that may happen, but they got to go through some hoops, obviously, and I think they have the confidence, the way they talk and everything, and along with the president, they all feel confident that they can make this happen, especially once they go through the hoops successfully that they got to go through. Now, here's the other thing too. I said it could end the tourist attraction part of it. Well, it could still continue it as well, because there are sections that, even as they mentioned in some of the reports, that are blocked off to the public. Those sections could be used for the worst of the worst, while the other part of Alcatraz is used as a tourist attraction. That could be what happens too. We'll have to see. But right now they're just looking it over, seeing what needs to be, fixed, upgraded, modernized a little bit, renovated, to kind of make it suitable for the imprisonment of the worst of the worst. So those are just my thoughts on that. And let's get on to the next topic at hand, the last topic. And I think you might like this one because it's made the rounds as well. So, a couple of days ago, or at least this past week, I should say, to be in tune with its 70th anniversary birthday, that being Disneyland, which I've been to once, basically, they decided for this week to open officially the newest attraction that they have. And that attraction, I'm going to make sure I get it right here. Okay, got it. is called Walt Disney: A Magical Life. And this is narrated, pretty much it's like a mini documentary. It's narrated by Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney. And it culminates with the last few minutes of the show, of the mini documentary. It culminates with the curtains rising, and you, as the curtains rise, get to be greeted by the first ever animatronic Walt Disney. That's right. They had been talking about this for the past year, that they were going to do it, even though the Disney family was against it. And this past week, they made it official by debuting it, with a private showing, press showing and all that. And then a regular showing for the regular audiences and attendees and visitors. And let's just say a lot of people are kind of mixed about it. Some feel that when you look up close to the animatronic, it looks nothing like Disney. It doesn't. Some feel it doesn't, really match what he looks like facially. Like the movements that they have him, the articulate movements that they have him doing. Yeah, that pretty much is Disney, but the facial part, the face part, is not Disney. And I can see that. I can see exactly what they're talking about. But look, not all animatronics at Disneyland or any place that represents, or at least kind of represents, or is a parody of somebody, is going to look accurate. I mean, you look at some of the wax figures over in Hollywood and Las Vegas and all that of celebrities, singers, artists, painters, producers, directors. You look at the wax figures, like I said, all across Hollywood, all across Las Vegas. You look at them, and they don't look exactly very accurate to the people they represent. Even if those people are still alive or no longer with us, they don't look like the people exactly that they represent. But it's close, but not accurate. And I think that's what kind of gets people here. Like, they look at this and they're like, yeah, the movements and everything are Disney, but the face isn't. And again, I can agree with it, but look, not everything's going to be perfect. Now, over time, will they, let's say, fix the face? Probably take the animatronic out, put the show on hold for at least maybe a day, couple days, maybe a couple weeks, till they get the face more accurate, more Disney-like. Could they do that in the future? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, they can do that, because they don't want to deter the customers. That's what the attendees and visitors are, customers. They don't want to deter anybody away from seeing it or being critical about it. So I think over time, yes, there will be a moment where they will close down, and at least the Walt Disney portion of the attraction, to take the animatronic out and work on the face to make it more accurate. Because what this attraction is doing, it's kind of intercoursing. It's basically what's the word I'm looking for? It's sharing space with the Abraham Lincoln exhibit, if you will. The Abraham Lincoln exhibit, they've had this since the beginning of Disneyland. Basically it's essentially just sharing space with the exhibit. It's sharing space of, like certain hours it's going to be on, Disney's going to be out there, Walt Disney's going to be out there and doing the Magical Life thing narrated by Bob Iger. And then other hours you're going to have, Abraham Lincoln instead. So some hours, say for 3 hours, 4 hours, it's all Disney. Then the next 3 or 4 hours is all Lincoln. So it's going to be like an intersection. It's like it's going to be interwoven, if you will. But yeah, a lot of people are kind of mixed about it, because they can understand why it's being done and they can appreciate that. But from an accurate perspective, they can also say, yeah, you need to work a little bit better on the face of Disney and everything, because everything else matches fine. It's just the face, up close to them is not Disney. So it's understandable. And again, I think the other reason why they're mixed about it is you got the Disney family, Walt's own family, that's not thrilled about this. They did not give the okay, apparently, to let this happen. But yet, it happened. Now, could there be a possibility that not only would it be removed for maybe facial repair or facial upgrade in the future and then brought back? Yeah, there's a possibility of that, but is there a possibility also that it could be just taken out permanently because maybe the Disney family will pressure the Walt Disney Company, mostly Disneyland, take it out or we're going to sue you for discrimination, for not getting our okay and all that. Could it be removed because of potential lawsuits and everything? Yeah, it could be. By the family? Yeah, it could be. So, for right now, we just have to, deal with what we have at Disneyland with this new exhibit, if you will, that's intercoursing, or kind of sharing space, I should say, with the Abraham Lincoln one. But yeah, again, could there be a time where they just remove it and say, okay, let's fix it facially to maybe be more of an accuracy of who Walt was? Yeah, they could do that. And could there be a chance that the Disney family, Walt's own family, as I said, could file a lawsuit for basically falsification, for not getting the permission and all that to do this? Could they, make that happen to where the exhibit would be removed permanently? Yeah, they could do that too. But we'll have to see what the future holds. I mean, you can find the show, you can find the presentation on YouTube, and I think it looks good. I think the presentation looks great, and I think if you sit, a couple of rows down, and I think that's why, when you watch these videos, you see the people that filming it are a couple of rows down. When you watch it from that perspective, like let's say you're in the middle row or the second to last row and you're watching it as well as filming it, honestly, it doesn't look that bad, really. It doesn't really look that bad at all. But honestly, if you're up close to it, that might give the impression of, movement-wise it is Disney, but facially it could be better, But those are just my thoughts on it, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are, on the whole Walt Disney's Magical Life animatronic. Did you go and see it when it debuted this week? Let me know, and let's talk about our next topic coming up. Well, to paraphrase this little red, I guess you could say, ball of stuffing, if you will, to paraphrase in a satire way about what happened to him in his X/Twitter account this past week. And this is my best impression of him. Oh no! Elmo got hacked! Yeah, that's the best I can do. But yeah, Elmo, who used to just be a regular red monster in the background, had, and as Clownfish TV's Neon put it, had a trucker's voice. Basically, Elmo, he's one of those fictional characters, even though he's a Muppet on Sesame Street, and he's had a few of his own movies and specials. Elmo is one of those fictional characters that has their own Twitter account. Yeah. Just like if you look online, you have a Bruce Wayne Tech Twitter account, you have a LexCorp Twitter account. Elmo has the same thing. Mickey Mouse has one as well. Kermit the Frog has one as well. And so on and so forth. Bugs Bunny has one as well. You get the idea. Well, Elmo's, got hacked over the past week. And, oh boy, the person that hacked it, they did not paint Elmo, in a good light with what they were putting on his Twitter account. I'm not going to say what it is, because I'm sure a lot of you know what it is, but because it was talked about all over the media, all over the news this past week. But yeah, it was only for like a couple of hours or something, and then Children's Workshop, Sesame Street, PBS, they got a hold of it, if you will. Basically, the Children's Workshop, Sesame Street people got a hold of it, got it under control, and got it back to being what it's supposed to be. And they even had Elmo, quote unquote, come on social media, on Twitter, and kind of apologize, for what happened in his own Elmo way. But yeah, this, like I said, this made the rounds. This made the rounds like you would not believe. Because imagine waking up and you're going to social media, and Elmo's one of the people or one of the accounts you're following, and you want to share some of his inspirational messages with your child and all that. And imagine you wake up, you go to it, and all of a sudden you see all this stuff he's saying, all this stuff on there that you're like, oh my God, Elmo got hacked. Because that'll be the first thing that goes to your mind, because when you read what he says before and even after now, you're like, okay, that's Elmo. But when you wake up that one day, it happened, and you see it, you're either thinking the person that's behind the Elmo account, you got drunk and maybe just got derogatory for a bit before somebody stopped them, or the other thing that comes to your mind, probably like I said, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh my God, the Elmo account got hacked. And it did. It really did. And even though some people got some news outlets got a laugh out of it, it's no laughing matter really, because it shows how vulnerable some social media accounts like Twitter and Facebook and Blue Sky and Threads and so on, are. It shows you how vulnerable they are. But yeah, Elmo, oh my gosh. I mean, some of the stuff that was put on there, again, I'm not going to say any of it, but it was just like, holy smokes. It's like you could not believe, what was put on there. And obviously it was done by somebody that was anti-Republican, anti-Trump, right-wing, that, anti-ICE, whatever you want to say. Obviously, they were that kind of person. But yeah, thankfully, Children's Workshop and Sesame Street people got it under control. They put out a statement saying, hey, this happened, and don't worry, we got it under control now. We got it back under our watch and everything. And now the question obviously is, how did this happen? Did some random person on the outside hack into it? Or was it some kind of disgruntled employee, knowing that basically the government, and I think it's been made official, was going to cut funding to PBS and NPR, for basically, depending more on the government than being what they were originally. And I think this is why they do it, and I mentioned it before, to get them back to the roots, and that's depend on your local region, on your local stations, your local people, to help fund your PBS and NPR stations, if you will, and channels that you like to watch and listen to. But yeah, honestly, nobody really knows who was behind it. Again, whether it was somebody on the outside or was a disgruntled person on the inside, we don't know. We don't know, and we may never know. But if we do know, but if we do find out, my guess, this is my guess, I think it's someone that works at PBS. I think it's somebody that works at PBS that probably was one of the people that worked the social media accounts, probably no longer now, that was disgruntled over hearing potentially what was going to and has happened. And they decided, you know what, I'm going to hack it. I'm just going to use Elmo's account, and I'm going to say all the stuff I want to say. And if it gets me in trouble, so what? And that's probably what happened. But, yeah, what a day, what a week, if you will, if you're the people at the Children's Workshop at Sesame Street and all that, at PBS, and, PBS Max, HBO Max, if you will, soon to be Netflix for them, Sesame Street, that is. I mean, what a week to see your most popular, one of your more popular characters' Twitter accounts be hacked into and used for all this derogatory remarks and everything, even if it was for a short period. But that's all I'm going to say on it, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are overall on what happened there, as well as let me know what your thoughts are overall, basically, on all the topics I had to talk about here and everything. Let me know how you feel, basically, about it. About each and every one of them and all that, guys. And until next time, I'm going to rest up a little bit because, like I said, I'm doing this a bit late. Opportunity knocks, if you will, because of summer break. But let me know what your thoughts are overall on all the topics I had to talk about here. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Share the video. Also, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere, as well as check me out at the Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. And guys, let's try to get to 30,000 before the summer's out, as well as 50,000 before the year's out. And until then, talk to you later.